To Florida, where President-elect Trump celebrated his victory early this morning. Joining us from West Palm Beach, Florida, is ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci. John, very busy morning for you, but we thank you for joining us.
John, always great to pick your brain. This is like one extended day. So we had yesterday into today, and you were in that room overnight where it all happened, where now President-elect Trump took the stage to declare victory over Vice President Harris. What was going on behind the scenes? I mean, we're talking about, what, 2:30 in the morning that this all happened? What was it like to be in there, and what did you observe?
Shirlene, Mike, good morning. Shirlene, I love the fact that you think I actually got a little sleep between last night and this morning, my friend. But look, being in the room, it was a little bit of deja vu. I was in the room 8 years ago at 2:30 in the morning when Donald Trump won in 2016. And to see so many faces, if you will, so many people that I recognized from the Trump administration 1.0 that were there walking around, talking about how excited they were, talking about what potential jobs they would get. It really was fascinating just to see it all, develop. I think that one of the things that you noticed while you were in the room last night is that when the states started to get called, and really it was two things, when North Carolina went Donald Trump's way and when the glass started to shatter on the blue wall, being Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. That is where you saw the room just electrify with folks that were there gathered to support the now president-elect. One of the things that I think will be fascinating over the coming days, we haven't seen Donald Trump this morning. I can tell you guys from speaking to my sources, like me, like most of us down here, he has not slept. I'm told that the president-elect has been on the phone for much of the morning talking to aides, donors, and supporters. And now the big question is, what does transition look like? And that will get started really quite quickly.
Hey, John, it's Sam. I'm sorry I didn't get to welcome you in, but I'm glad you're there. And I know you haven't slept tonight. I hope you get to approach sleep at some point in the next 24 hours. But, John, let's talk a little bit about, the rhetoric has been so hot and high right now. What does this transition look like? Do we calm it down, friendly it up a little bit? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to take the question and split it in two if I can, Sam. So as far as what the transition looks like, think a little bit of yesteryear. And what I mean by that is think about the visuals from late 2016, where we saw so many people go, and if you will, like an episode of The Apprentice, which Donald Trump hosted for nearly 2 decades, show up at his club as they were auditioning for a role in the administration. That was in Bedminster because 8 years ago, Donald Trump was a New Yorker. Now he's a Floridian. So that is much likely to happen here in Palm Beach at his estate that's over my shoulders. So I think we'll start to see people come through, Donald Trump interview, Donald Trump negotiate, figure out what positions. That will begin. As far as what I think things will look like as we, gear up and head in towards a new administration, one of the top priorities our sources tell us here at ABC, Sam, is that they're very much going to be leaning into the bucket of law and order. So really leaning into immigration, leaning into Homeland Security. We know that so many of the people that were with Donald Trump in the final days that worked in those areas are still with him. So seeing somebody like Tom Homan, who was at one point running ICE, that's of course the agency that deals with customs and border relations, I think that is someone that goes in, and I think that's where Sam will actually see building out the first days of the Trump administration. And don't take my word for it. Donald Trump himself, right, has said it pretty publicly what he would do. And I think one of the things that we all have to pay attention to of what could come in January is some form of mass deportation. And guys, we heard it when he was campaigning in Madison Square Garden in your city just a couple of weeks ago. We know that Donald Trump, the New Yorker, really hit into that in his speech, talked about areas in New York, talked about the Roosevelt Hotel, which obviously became a migrant shelter for the city. Something like that, I think, is where we could see Donald Trump and his team really dig in, target, and frankly do something on day one.
John, what are some of the other possible actions? You talked about mass deportation, but there are other expectations of what he will do, Trump, upon returning to office on day one. Some people have thought maybe pardons for January 6th, firing of the special counsel. What are your thoughts on that?
I think check on both of those, Shirlene. I think that's excellent points. First of all, he has said repeatedly that he does not believe all the January 6 convicted felons got what they deserve. So I think that could certainly be something they deal with in short order once he takes the oath of office. And as far as special counsel Jack Smith, he said it himself, Shirlene, he would fire the special counsel within 2 seconds of taking the oath of office. And that's something that, let's be clear, Donald Trump had 4 criminal indictments, 2 of which were state cases, 2 of which were federal cases. On the state cases, one being the Georgia probe, question mark, don't know what's going to happen there. That case is pretty much fallen apart. In New York, believe it or not, just think about this for a second. He was just elected president of the United States. In a matter of 3 weeks, he has to allegedly be back in New York for sentencing in that case. A big question what happens. As far as firing the special counsel, fire Jack Smith, the 2 federal cases, gone with the wind.
We'll be watching it closely.
Sure will.
ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci from West Palm Beach. We appreciate your perspective. As always, safe travels back here to New York.
Thank you all. See you soon.
Thanks.